Andy, you ever have that one piece of clothes or some article of or possession that you've had a really long time and then it's gone and you're like, like what's going on here? I mean,
Gone like missing or gone like it was time to get rid of it.
gone like MIA.
Mm.
It's had a belt. Like I think belt. Like, do you remember the clothing store structure?
Yeah, I do.
And, it was a big mall staple back then, the 90s. It was the trend, you had Abercrombie and all these other stores. I like structure. And so I always enjoy. So I got a belt for a present. I got a belt. It was and I've had it since it's like 18
Yeah,
since I've been 18. So 32 years, longer than
that's
I've known you, longer than I knew my wife.
yeah.
Um, and I can't find it now. And I had thought like my wife likes to upgrade my clothes from time to time. She knows about the belt, and I'm wondering if she like secretly got rid of it. So I challenged her last night. She's like, I would never get rid of your belt. So like now I'm genuinely worried. I mean, that belt has been with me through the end of high school,
Yeah.
through college, through deployments, 32 years, and now I'm a little bit at a loss here, Andy.
Yeah, that's significant. I mean, like that's a significant loss. I can understand your feelings there. It's personal, right? It's personal.
Personal. It's part
Yeah.
of me.
But you have no clue where it is? I mean, I feel like you don't just randomly lose a belt. I feel like,
I
it's
mean,
either found your waist or it's not.
I had it with me with when I went to Mississippi. So I'm wondering if it may not have made it.
Yeah.
So
Well, Dave, I mean, while we get sad when these things happen, and they are real, I mean, they are really emotional sometimes, at the end of the day, it's just material stuff. So you hold on to the memories of that cherished belt, you hold on to those closely, and some strapping 19-year-old college guys walking around with your belt on right now in the great state of Mississippi.
I will tell you, like it was such a good belt too, Andy. Like it was like 32 years. It's got to be a good belt.
I
Like
think that's a nice piece of leather.
I mean, it's a great piece of leather. And like, yeah, I'm not saying it was like the prettiest belt, and I didn't wear it with everything, but like it was my go-to belt for
Yeah.
like everyday wear. So,
I
okay.
mean, maybe something you could take out of Dave. Maybe, the past is great, but it's time to move forward, So maybe there's a lesson in this for you. Maybe it's time to embrace a new belt, a
I get
21st
it.
century belt, something you can get comfortable with.
Okay, Andy, that was a diversion because I really don't want to talk about our topics today. Oh, okay. I'll hit you with this head. I think we do, it's good if we do this. All
Okay.
right.
Here.
Like hit you the headline. We don't go too deep into it. But um, but two big things happen. Well, we didn't really talk too much about political persecutions, Andy, and or political vengeance. We've talked about it a little bit, but under the Biden administration, where Trump and the conservatives have accused them of weaponizing the Department of Justice to go after people who defraud the government and who tried to violently overthrow the government when they didn't get the election results, and all those things. And they even prosecuted the president's own son, Andy.
Right.
Hunter Biden was even prosecuted. Under this administration, they've cleaned all that up. They've gotten rid of all of that. And they don't do any of those things. And let alone the president doesn't go on a social media platform and tells the attorney general to prosecute his opponents
Yeah.
that have done that. So the first domino fell. Well, this has been happening for a while now, but another domino fell. James Comey, the former director of the FBI, was indicted yesterday on lying to the Senate over a 2020 testimony related to whether or not he authorized a leak of information to the media. Um, there's a lot to this. It's pretty clear that the person who accused Comey of this, of a former deputy, was not truthful himself, but that doesn't matter in this administration,
Uh,
Andy. Justice has prevailed as declared by President Trump on social media.
Yeah. Well, according to the president, Dave, in case you missed it and weren't paying attention, where he shared a truth with us, so obviously it's fact. James Comey is one of the worst, I'm quoting here, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to. He's a corrupt former head of the FBI, right? And he's been so bad for our country, Dave, for so long, but justice will prevail. So thank God. Thank God for Donald Trump. Look, most people have said the case on this is very flimsy. The DOJ, as much as they wanted to do what the president directed on social media to do, didn't really feel comfortable moving forward on this. But they are, because that's what this government does: retribution, violence, hatred towards one's enemies. As the president celebrated at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, right? I hate my enemies, he said. And
I
that's
hate my opponents.
he's using the full power of the state to attack those that he sees as his enemies, and everybody, if you're not fully on board getting this guy off every morning, is an enemy, right? So either you're on board or you're an enemy of the state, and we're seeing this in the political persecution of James Comey. We're seeing this in the newly signed executive orders that are attacking groups on the left, and trying to crack down on protesting, under the name of organized violent crime, right? I mean, it's an assault on anybody that's not fully engaged in supporting this president and his regime. It's petrifying. I mean, like Americans should be petrified. This is what we're seeing in our country today, and it's gross. I mean, he's attacking not only well-known political leaders, but he's moving closer and closer now to attacking any type of protest against his administration. Look, in 3 weeks, there's going to be large nationwide mass gatherings protesting this administration. We're going to see what happens. I mean, we're going to see what happens and how this administration reacts. And I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest.
You're referring to the sequel of No King's Day. It
That's
would do
right.
this again, and this comes as news as which Secretary the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has called back admirals and generals from around the world to Quantico, Virginia. I've never heard of a military meeting in Quantico, even though Quantico is one of the largest Marine bases around, but they don't often meet in the Quantico, so it tells me something different is here. So this is going to be interesting. We were facing a looming government shutdown, Andy. There's been a lot of there- there's a lot of troubling indicators here, especially listening to Goebbels or Goebbels or whatever, however you want to pronounce Stephen Miller's name,
Yeah.
um, you know, talking about how those are nothing. Did you see the proclamation about left wing, prosecuting extremist terrorists,
Yeah.
talking about dehumanizing people and all this other stuff? We're going to go after those groups. Take a page out of any Stephen Miller speech and, and talk about dehumanizing the other side. It's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's what Malaysia is doing, right? If you're not on board, if you're not Team Trump, you're the enemy. You're scum. You're awful, right? And it's just, I mean, it's mocking people, elected officials, and others. I'm not going to pronounce your name properly. I'm going to make fun of how you look, who you are. I mean, it's just such a joke of everything, except it's not a joke. I mean, like while these ass clowns are having their fun, right? They're destroying institutions of government that have made America truly wonderful these last 150 years, tearing it down, assaulting their enemies, political violence, threats. I mean, missing people in ICE detention centers, dead people in ICE detention centers, just chaos, confusion, disregarding the law. You got DHS saying, "Hey, we see the Californians passed a law. We're not going to comply with it. We're going to continue to wear a mask around California, regardless of what your laws say." It's just, it's just constant. We're going to do whatever the hell we want. Get out of our way. Get on board, or you're the enemy. And it's just an amazing place for this country to be. And Dave, again, what we've kind of touched on before, it's truly amazing. New polls out this week: 37% of Americans are still saying, yeah, I kind of like what I'm seeing right now. Like this seems to be good to me. I think that's an incredibly high number considering all things. Like I think that number should be in the 20s by now, but 37%, or the third of America, is like, yeah, I think I like what I'm seeing out of the White House right now, which blows my mind. And look, it's going to come to a point here. The administration continues to push and push, where Congress, like, there has to be, either an acceptance that Congress is just like, we're done, we're just deferring to the president on everything, or we're going to stand up for America, our history, and the American people. It doesn't take a whole lot. It doesn't take a whole lot of people. It's not a lot of numbers. So there's still a chance for at least a confrontation between even a Republican-led Congress and this president as he continues to go into Trump extremism.
Yeah, but my bet on that is like
I know, I know.
3,491 million billion gazillion to one. Like that ever is going to happen.
So you're saying
Um,
there's a chance.
yeah, so you're saying there's a chance. Um, Taco Trump was at it again, Andy.
Yeah,
Um, Trump, like just when you thought the tariff news was all over, Trump went out again and just out of the blue decided that, hey, I'm going to impose on October 1st 100% tariffs. At least he kept it within 100%. Didn't go to 1,500% and all these 2,000%. But he's going to impose a 100% tariff on pharmaceuticals that don't. This is the key point, Andy. It's not that they're going to commit to building in America. They need to break ground and start construction in America.
yeah,
Um, you can't get anything in America in, less than a week here with all the stuff going on, let alone breaking ground. So that's going to happen. Then he's imposing more tariffs on furniture and other things like that. Um, Andy, the problem is he's not reading the room. Well, this is obvious, right? He doesn't read the room. He
yeah,
only reads what people tell him, and they only say what he wants to hear. So it's a self-looking ice cream cone there. He's not reading the room because people are saying, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I'm not going to build in America. I can live without the American consumer. They can't pay for groceries today, so they're not going to pay for my product anyway. So here we go. I mean, this idea that was going to spur innovation in factories and manufacturing in America, I, it's not really going to happen, Andy.
yeah. And the threats aren't going to help because, like you said, you can't build fast enough. You need money, cash, and incentive to build. Incentive being, I'm going to get a return on my investment here. I'm going to get money back. So it's just, I mean, this again, like you said, out of the blue yesterday, another post. We will be imposing a 50% tariff on all kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and associated products. And then they talks about another 30% on upholstered furniture and the 100% on those that aren't building separately. Another post. It's just like, where is this coming from? How do you want people to react to this kind of stuff? It's just organized chaos. And Dave, we would be remiss if we didn't say, as all this is happening, like the polls are holding steady very low. We're seeing Americans reject this nonsense, right? While there's that 37% that loves it, in special election after special election around the country, Republicans lose, right? They're losing right now, and Democrats are winning. One, we have two big elections coming up in about a month and a half here in Virginia and New Jersey, where Democrats are positioned to sweep, which is a repudiation of this administration and the supporting party. Two, just with elections that occurred this week, there are now enough individuals supporting Thomas Massey's push to release the Epstein files. And so, as
Epstein,
all
what's
this,
that, Andy? I don't know what that is. And no,
it's made up leftist nonsense. It's fiction.
okay, thanks for
Yeah.
reminding. Yeah.
But this is a Republican and many other Republicans that have been close to this administration signing on saying we need to move forward on this. And so while all this chaos is happening, there is this, bigger issue that's also happening. And so I don't want to say bigger issue, it's all chaos, but there's so much swirling at the same time. It's going to be a wild October. I mean, it's going to be a wild October. Whatever's coming from Pete's meeting with all the general and admiral officers around the world, Dave. He's bringing leaders in from around the world without telling them why. What comes from Pete's meeting, what comes from the administration crackdown on its opponents, what comes from these elections that are coming up, what comes from these Epstein files release. Brace yourselves, America, because October is going to be a fucking shit show. I mean, it really is. So I mean, like, just be prepared to be exhausted with all this nonsense, to be frustrated on a daily basis as we are today. But just Gary, it's going to be a wild fucking mess from all corners. And so enjoy your weekend because we move into October and it's going to be fucking chaos.
That might be the headline for our pod today. October is gonna be a shit show. All right, one last topic here, Andy, because it's just a depressing Friday. Um, and I should be happy because I'm looking for Trump also signed an order to have prosecutors pursue the death penalty in DC
Yeah.
for crime. And he's actually having Bondi pursue this nationwide. You know, where where do you stand on the death penalty, Andy?
Dave, I'm personally completely against the death penalty. I appreciate the idea of it. Yeah, I appreciate the idea that if somebody does something so horrendous, let's just go with like the worst, like violent crime against children, and we know they did it. Like there's no doubt. We're caught on camera. We know this person did it. I understand the desire for let's kill this motherfucker and get him off the face of the earth. I get it. I totally understand it. The challenge with all of this, right? You can argue the morals of it. You can argue the Christianity of it. You can argue both ways. You can argue in a number of different ways. The problem is we put innocent people on death row on a not infrequent basis. Like that's the problem, right? And in my mind, when we sort of dial back the aggression of like let's kill these motherfuckers, if it's your brother, if it's your mother, if it's your spouse, if it's your kid that is innocently convicted and put on death row, you would 100% oppose the death penalty. That happens in this country to people around this country. There was a case in California where a man in his 70s, he was served 38 years and was on death row, found to be not guilty. He's getting $25 million from Los Angeles for being wrongly convicted and suffering in jail for almost 4 decades. We put innocent people on death row. We have killed innocent people. That is reprehensible. So while the administration wants to be tough on crime and you screw with us and you're going to get the strongest of punishments, if you stop for a second and say, okay, I can risk somebody spending their life in jail. Like that's just part of the process. There will be unfortunate wrongful convictions. Let them rot in jail. But to take an innocent life completely unnecessarily and incorrectly, the government should never be allowed to do that. And we should never be allowed to use the full power and violence of the state to conduct state-sanctioned murder of innocent people. So while the administration wants to be tough on crime, people are like, rah, rah, let's fucking do it. Let's kill these bad guys. It's a very dangerous game, and it's an ugly game. And it's one that I think as a nation, we shouldn't want to put ourselves in the same category as China and Iran and Saudi Arabia, the other world leaders in government-led murder. And we should never support the potential execution of innocent people. And in this case in Los Angeles, it's a great illustration of that. People lose their lives, in jail and with the death penalty, and it's gross.
Yeah, I mean, I generally support like that as well. Like I think, look, there are crimes that in my younger days, there were crimes that were so heinous that you're like, we should put that person to death. But I do think on the whole, like there are too many instances where we have faulty convictions, and
Yeah,
it's not one isolated case in one part of the world or country or whatever. There's enough of it now, and like the groups like the Innocence Project and some of these other
right.
advocate groups, they do a great job of it. And let's just be real, like there are some times like police work is not on the up and up, and there's a lot of factors. I don't know, maybe like a politician influencing things to pressuring people to get things done.
Yeah,
And like when you have that kind of focus behind it, you have to call into question like what are we really trying to do? And so I don't disagree that the crime, if the person has been lawfully convicted, they should go away in jail for the rest of their lives. That's punishment enough.
yeah,
The death of that person doesn't undo what was done. So I don't know. Yeah, I just I'm with you on that as well. So
yeah. It's tough,
um,
and especially when we see it, like you said, Dave. I mean, we see leaders politicize it. We see biases involved in it, right? Depending on where you're
yeah,
killed and how you look, the convictions are different, right? For people of different ethnicities, races, genders. It's just a really hard one to say this is being ethically conducted and we should go forward. So it's Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, I mean, our justice system is flawed in some respects. I mean, and we should acknowledge that it's flawed. And I think, oh no, I'm sorry, that's un-American. We should not acknowledge that anything is wrong with this country, Andy. And so like look, we have people who are innocent, who like clearly the evidence shows that they were guilty, right? And so like it works both ways in some respects. And so I'm just like you can't undo some of that stuff.
Yeah,
So
you can. And when you see administration like we're seeing now that wants to push on its enemies, you can see the line of what constitutes grounds for termination becoming looser and looser, right?
yeah.
So I mean, like you want to think, well, it's only going to be in case at least of murder, right? Like this guy tried to assassinate or did assassinate Charlie Kirk. We grabbed him, case closed, right? We're gonna convict him and we're gonna execute him. Like that, this like if there's a logical line of thought there, but if you continue, where does it go? Could the government decide, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be murder. It could be violent crime. It could be political opposition, right? As we see detention centers being set up in this country, as we see threats of the use of force against people practicing their First Amendment rights, as you see the government come in and prosecute and persecute individuals they see as funding opposition to their plans, like that slippery slope of, well, I mean, maybe, right? Like it's very possible. Like we have to challenge ourselves to accept that like, it's possible this kind of power can be further abused, right? And that's not even a statement just to this president. That could be any president. And so when you give them power to conduct state-sanctioned murder, like it's a dangerous game. And so while you expect people to sort of do the right thing, the last year has shown us that when given authority and given ambiguity, individuals and those who support them will take advantage of that ambiguity and conduct very significant violence against this country. That's why we have to limit government. That's why our founders tried to deliberately limit government. That's why we have to have, as you've often talked about, checks and balances. And we're losing all of that right now. Again, just for a moment, Dave, the problem with the Democrats, they're not actually talking about changing any of that. There's no presidential candidate or would-be presidential candidate standing up saying, look, we're going to put systems in place to make sure that we never have a president this reckless again. They're not saying that. They're saying, let me be the president and I'll do a better job. And so, for those on the right that are celebrating what we're seeing today, if we have elections again, and if there's a new president, and if that president happens to be of the opposing party, they could be just as gross and ugly as violent as President Trump is being today against this administration and its supporters. And like we don't stop to think about that, as Americans. We're just so caught up in the moment. So yeah, I oppose the death penalty to answer your question, but I think like we should think more broadly about how bad it can go when the government is out of control as it is today. And who could be killed? Anybody could be killed.
Yeah, that's getting into heavy stuff, Andy.
Yeah. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Let's turn to some lighter stuff,
All right.
Andy. This is one of my favorite sports weekends of the year,
Okay.
especially when you have the culminations of so many things happening. So for starters, obviously we have the NFL. It's ongoing. There's some good games this weekend, but like that's not really the lead story. That like in Major League Baseball, this is the last weekend of the regular season. And the nice thing is that there are like in years past, these generally speaking, when you just had division winners for baseball making it to the playoffs and before wild cards and all that other stuff, the league was primarily settled. You knew who the division winners were and you moved on. Well, obviously we've got wild cards now, and there's a lot of them. There's division races still at play. There's wild card races still play. There's three or four positions still up for grabs heading into the final weekend, and some of those teams are playing each other, and that makes it even more exciting. So we got a lot on Major League Baseball this weekend, and then we got some huge college football games, huge games, and this is when now the start of in while there have been some conference games already, most teams have played cupcakes to get through to the conference games. My one of them being my Penn State Nittany Lions. They play though Oregon this week, so depending, it's a top 5 matchup. Oregon is traveling to Penn State to play at night It's a whiteout game, which means that everybody in the stadium is wearing white with the exception of the opposition and such. And this is one of the big pinnacle events of the year. Penn State always gets a night game, so they went with white. And it's a fat like if you can't NBC 7:30 Eastern time Saturday night, check it out. It is quite a scene and it'll be quite a matchup. And then you got Alabama and Georgia, Ole Miss that we went and saw they're playing LSU this week. A lot of big games this week. Are you excited for sports this weekend, Andy?
I am excited for sports. Dave, you talk about baseball coming into the playoffs. Like, I'm so not connected to baseball. Like, I didn't even think about the fact there's a baseball season occurring. So, here we are now in the playoffs. Your Orioles and aren't doing as great as maybe you would have hoped them to have been doing, but you're seeing some fun teams. So the playoffs are great in any sport. Like when there's that final race to the championship, I think it's super exciting. And yeah, college football. Like I don't pay a lot of attention to college football, but rivalry weekends are so good, and like the enthusiasm at those games and the stadiums, the fans. Like I love to see that. Like you talk about Alabama, Georgia. I mean, that is one of the biggest games of the year when you see these like rivals, these Southeast teams duking it out. Like I love to see that. So you can sit down, and one of the best things about sport is you can disconnect from the reality around you and the chaos we've been describing for the last 30 minutes and just enjoy something mindless and fun, and just pick a team and cheer for them if you're not a fan of I don't care about Georgia or Alabama, but you can cheer for one and just have a fun game. And it's so good and healthy. So I hope it's a great weekend of sports. Hope people get a chance to disconnect and enjoy things other than what we started this podcast talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm going to spend a lot of time on Saturday watching these games and yeah, my Orioles are out, but it's always fun to see some of these other teams play. And it's funny about the Orioles. So like they had such an awful start to the season. They were 16 and 34 a month and a half into the season,
Yeah,
and since that time, they've played 10 games over 500 since then. So they've been a good team since then. But they had such a bad start, they had never had a chance to dig out from under it. It's the same with football. Like some of these teams are 0 and 3 right now, or even 1 and 2, and they play it like Kansas City is going to be potentially 1 and 3 after this week. They play Baltimore, and that's not. I have a bad feeling for Kansas City there, but maybe I'm wrong. But if they're 1 and 3, one of those teams is going to be 1 and 3.
yeah,
I mean, because they're both 1 and 2 right now. Like you're playing catch up the rest of the season. I mean, I know it's only a quarter of the way through the season, but you still have to play catch up, and you can't dig out like Baltimore. They were beaten by Detroit on Monday night,
yes, they were
but they
glorious.
should have won the first week of the season. They coughed it up. That game, we've talked about this a lot. September is where you can lose. Like even losing goes, it's a double whammy because not only do you lose the game, but at the end of the season, a stupid loss can wind up killing you. Like, I mean, think about the Atlanta Falcons. They got whitewashed by the Carolina Panthers, who looked awful their first 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Is that game going to come back? And like, if the Panthers are 3-13, but or 3-14 at the end of the season, and one of those wins costs Atlanta a chance for the playoffs, that's what we're talking about. You can't these early season games are really important.
they are. And we saw this last year with your Cowboys on the bubble, and that
Yeah.
early Saints game came back to haunt them. These games do matter, and you're right. I mean, the Orioles are a great case there, the way you described it. You get so far down, you just can't get back up, and that is a problem. And the NFL, like as we've seen the preseason sort of diminish, the first few weeks treated sort of like a preseason by some teams. You drop three, you drop four games in the first month and a half. Stats show you don't make the playoffs, and so it makes your path much harder. And so it's again part of the fun to watch all this, because a team like the Panthers gets fired up to play their division rival. They play them well, they beat them, and now it's a problem, for the Atlanta Falcons and their playoff hopes as they see, the Bucks increasing their spacing. So I love to watch it. Those storylines, start early in the season and carry forward. It stinks when your team is terrible, but it's fun to watch, and then it really shows up at playoff time, like you're seeing now in baseball and like we're going to see in football.
Yeah, so it's a good weekend. Should be a fun weekend of activities and games, and so helps take the numb the pain, Andy. Helps
Yeah,
numb the pain.
yeah. We don't promote you going out and finding ways to numb the pain, but sports are one way you can do it.
You
Sports
can do it, like,
and,
yeah.
and music. Dave, it's New Music Friday. Hopefully, there'll be something that catches my ear, something we can distract ourselves with from the chaos around us.
So unfortunately, Andy, we didn't have an uplifting end of the week. It's been a kind of a crazy week, but I'm going to try to think over the weekend about what we can do to just break up the constant drumbeat of bad news.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, we'll give some thought to that, Dave, because there's a lot of good news. There's a lot of good news. There's a lot of exciting things from science to technology. Like there's a lot of really
science, what's
positive things
that,
happening.
Andy? What the fuck is that?
Well, it's not real. It's not
It's
real.
it's fake for sure.
Science parentheses fiction, but
Yes.
but there really is. I mean, like we get so caught up in the bad goings on. There's a lot of really positive, good news happening every day. Great minds doing great things. Like there's a lot of positive things to celebrate. It's just hard to sometimes see, those spots of sunlight in the very shaded forest, which we're in right now. So we should celebrate more of those, Dave, and bring them to the attention of those that are along the journey with us each morning here, because there is a lot of wonderful things happening around this country and around the world. Like we can't lose sight of the fact. Like I thought of this yesterday, Dave. I will outlive Donald J. Trump. Like I will be alive, and he will be dead. So there is another side to where we are today, right? That will eventually happen. That's going to happen for most Americans. Most living Americans will outlive this president and this administration. I don't know what the hell's going to follow, and we're going to have to fight to protect and continue our American democracy. But like other days are coming, and so like don't let the horrendous things we're seeing around us like keep us down, because like there is a future. It's inevitable. The future is always coming.
Yeah, I just hope that like there's going to be a lot of undoing that's done
Yeah,
that has to be done. I just hope that what has been done can't be it's going to be so hard it's going to break so many things other.
yeah,
But you're right. Let's find some positive stories, Andy, and we'll bring that here to the pod
yeah.
because our listeners demand that, Andy.
Demand
So
it. Deserve it.
okay, have a good weekend, Andy. Watch some football. Enjoy. Hope the Lions do well this weekend. I know my Cowboys will not because they're going to play the player who they traded because they're cowards. But all right, Andy, with that, we'll catch up on Monday.